We got
All right.
anything up and rolling. Let's see, we have February 19th, Transportation Advisory Board meeting. Let's start with public comment. Anything been submitted?
None submitted.
Anyone from TAB that you've heard?
I heard some interesting comments a couple weeks ago at the Wheel Bar.
Oh,
And the comment was about overnight parking will be towed in the parking lot behind the bar. And what are patrons to do if they want to be responsible and not drive home drunk? They have to leave their cars in the parking lot, and then they're going to get ticketed. And so this is whether or not the truth, the perception. And so, yes, that was the comment. What are we to do?
Well, in most cases, it's not going to get towed immediately. It would get a ticket if that, and there's a process to dispute that ticket if they get it. And if in the fact they're in the vehicle occupying it between the overnight hours, in most cases, I believe the PD will provide grace if, they don't want people driving either,
So
if they're inebriated or
Yeah.
over the limit.
would it be possible to have some kind of policy change that overnight parking is okay for residents as long as they move by 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning?
We are, right now, we're working on some updates to 10.04030 and 10.04040, which are parking prohibited and overnight parking prohibited in the municipal code. That's in process right now. So there should be something with going to the town board very soon, within the next few, I'd say, meetings, about a study session which takes into account those two codes. How's that for ambiguous?
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
The short answer is yes.
The long answer is mine, yes.
They should sort not driving home when the bar closes from what we see on High Drive, families in their van trying to stay overnight on the street.
It's hard to legally differentiate the difference between living in the parking lot versus getting a safe ride home. So legally it'd be hard to differentiate that.
so maybe they have to be out of the car.
Well, if
This
you're in the
part
car
is-
with keys, even the passenger, you still get DUI. So you can't be, you're still considered in control of the vehicle.
Are you gonna bring the draft policy change to this group for discussion next month? Because we're gonna put it out for public comment here real quick.
Hopefully within the next couple weeks, yeah, so I can bring the draft to you guys or let you know it's out there.
Thank you, that'd be good.
Slap a note on there. I was drinking.
I didn't mean anything. It felt so good.
Just breathe on this note that you're writing. And if it turns a different color.
I've been approached a couple of times at basketball specifically about public transportation when it comes to special events hosted by the town. I know people that didn't even go to Ski Jour because they couldn't get parking within, they said half a mile, but I was inside, so I don't know if that's true. But they were hoping that there was something that TAB could do to suggest to the town to provide some sort of off-site parking and transportation. I don't know if that's feasible, I don't know if it's even possible, but it was something that had been brought up to me more than one time, especially with Dead Guy Days coming up, so.
Isn't that part of the permit process where they need to show
Yeah, there's
parking plan?
two parts to it. Yeah, for events that the town sponsors, we are able, part of what we're restricted on is based on our funding, our 5311 funding, our federal funding that we are awarded. So we can't be in the business of competing with charter companies that are in that business. So town-sponsored events, like the whiskey warm-up coming up and things like that, we can offer transportation if the event center staff asks us to do that.
Interesting.
For-profit events, Frozen Dead Guy Days, Ski Jour, some of those, we can't offer that unless all other options are exhausted. And frankly, if all other options were exhausted, we couldn't offer it because some of the competition are our drivers.
So the idea is that that event themselves could be arranging transportation with one of the local companies
And
It's
I-
their
which would bring
responsibility to
profit,
do it.
And I did,
to the town.
in my meeting this
To
morning
our
that I
community.
had, because Estes Park was there, and they mentioned this whole thing, transportation for Frozen Dead Guy Days. And that just this past weekend, they had received a new quote from their transportation company from $10,000 to $45,000. And so, yeah, and so they think what they're looking now is other options to see what might, and so this might be the opportunity where the town might step in, cause it is out of the range, right, of what they can afford at this point. But they need to provide transportation, so they are working on it, is something that they do. I know last year, part of the reason it didn't happen was because of the amount of snow. And so that ruined their transportation plans that they did have in place, cause there are buses that'll bring you up to the Stanley and things like that, because the Stanley sponsors it, right? So they want people to be able to go back and forth, so it's in place as long as we don't get 3 feet of snow.
Fascinating. I don't have an opinion, but I appreciate the
Yeah.
knowledge, cause it
Yeah.
keeps getting brought up.
Mhm.
So now, the more you know,
The more you know, thank you.
You
Should've
bet.
just emailed you. Who knew?
it's a matrix.
So is that something where we need, or should
Follow.
ask that the events contracts are more proactive about providing sufficient transportation and?
It almost kinda hurt, cause like the band raises money with parking at the high school, so honestly,
Yeah.
on my flip side of things, because again, this wasn't my topic, you could actually hurt their fundraisers
Yeah.
for band if public transportation was extra easy, if we had people parking off
So,
site.
It seems like it's the event organizer,
Mhm.
it's their responsibility. And if it's a town-sponsored event, then the town's coordinating it, but
Right, but if there's no, enforcement of, or no, guidelines for what should be required and no enforcement if they don't meet it, then
yeah.
things could be improved.
You are supposed to submit a plan, like when I've been on events, I definitely.
That's part of the permitting
that's-
process,
Yeah.
isn't it?
So that's where it
It is.
ties in and communicates, and then law enforcement checks it, and CDOT and everybody.
and are these people complaining that parking's too far away?
Yeah, just that it might be easier if there was public transit, was the thought.
Okay,
that was
so that's the
perceived.
key thing.
It'd be easier to get in and get people in and out, and it would be.
Are they thinking that maybe they would go and park at like the visitor center and then there's a bus that runs back and forth on those days? Cause there's the stop in front of the event center there, is that like an
Yeah, I think
option,
that's-
like,
I think that's the.
does that need to be put under the
And
permit?
this wasn't just one person, this
That's
is like
cost.
3 different people have talked about it.
Yeah, so
but-
then,
I don't,
does that go under the cost of the, yeah, that's just the thought, I don't know if that goes on, I don't know,
Well, when you have a for-profit event, then that's part of their plan
yeah.
for putting on the event
Yeah.
is the expenses that they have.
And
And I guess, I don't know, I
Or
would think,
negotiate with the parking lot nearby,
absolutely.
like high school or, across the street from,
fairgrounds.
fairgrounds, there's some parking lot.
And there might be, I mean, currently there's a number of handicap parking spots for
Correct.
that sticker that's a whole thing to get, but then you have it forever. But these seem to be people who can't walk from the parking lot to the event center. Maybe there's an in-between category of, not disabled but old, or, can't walk very far.
Or a
But,
loading
you know,
zone, drop-off zone.
Yeah, and that could be added to the application when you're doing an event. How much handicapped or drop-off zone do you put in?
Yeah, possibility.
Sorry guys, I didn't mean to take it off the wrist.
Did you want any feedback from that, like
No.
officially?
No, I
Okay.
think there's a lot more knowledge there than I even
Okay.
know.
Because it, just wanna do the follow-up. All right, so trustee liaison, Eigel, he, let us know that he's not able to make it today. He had some work conflicts, so, he won't be here, and he didn't have any message for any of us. So apparently, he will review the tape that is going on.
The trustee, I know, do you have a trustee report to share on his behalf?
I do not.
It's just coincidence that you're not here as his substitute.
I'm not.
Got it.
Here's the mayor.
Okay. Thank you.
Neither is the mayor.
Yeah,
At all, but no.
yeah, we could pass the microphone to y'all.
I just came because I've never been to one of these.
Well, welcome.
Time to come.
Missing out.
Okay, so, let's go ahead and approve the February 5th minutes. It's in our packet, hopefully people reviewed them. It was a robust discussion to the,
They look good to me.
yeah. Everyone's thoughts were
They
made.
passed the muster.
Motion to approve then, here we go.
Second.
Second. Any other discussion, voting, everyone?
Yes.
everyone Okay, unanimous. Attended. Okay, so now we are finally getting to the multimodal transportation plan and transit development plan, and we're gonna start with transit since we ran out of time last meeting. Getting feedback. Discussion.
Good plan.
Yes.
It's such a big document that we just kind of jumped in, so last night when I was rereading the 165 pages, is there any way that I could submit another correction? Could I get my name spelled right on the second page? That would be fantastic. I didn't even look at it.
I think I caught that last
Did you?
time,
Okay,
yeah,
good.
but I
did
haven't
not,
looked at the
'cause I
updated.
thought, this isn't the meat of it when I was scanning it, but, yeah, I found that last night. Thank you.
Sure.
Cause when Joan brings it to the meeting 13 years later.
You
This
want
book, yeah, right?
This is the most fabulous report from 2012, thank you
It
Greg
is.
for letting me see it. And almost everything that we have been discussing in these two plans is already thought through and distilled in this document that is only about 40 pages. So, I would recommend that it is made available to every member of TAB and every trustee.
And it is.
It is on the
It's on the
website.
It's on the
Okay.
website.
Oh, it is.
And flagged as the most important document about transportation in Estes Park.
Yeah. And you'll have a copy at Public Works too.
I believe this is
That's it.
the hard copy, but it is on the Transportation and Transit
Yeah.
Studies page of the website.
All right.
We'll just start.
Should we just go around and
I love that
read
idea.
comments? Yeah, what, some thoughts on it?
First, we're doing the transit development plan, right?
Yep.
Okay, can the figures match what it says in the document, please? It's driving me
I
nuts.
caught that immediately
Oh
and
my
they
God.
made that change and I thought I updated that,
Okay.
where like it says figure 3, but it's really figure 5. Yeah,
Yeah,
I-
that was like,
they changed that immediately, I think that day,
Okay.
and I may not have uploaded the latest one.
who knows? I might
Yeah.
have an old one downloaded on my thing too, so just so.
Okay.
I just noticed that was up.
But- And I verified that on today's, cause I literally caught that exact same thing the day this came
I was
out.
like, why
Yeah,
is this?
and it had to do with PDF uploading
I
is what they
figured,
told
it's
me.
always,
Yeah.
never goes the way it's supposed to. Okay, so microtransit, I was talking about, this is on page 50, when it talks about the bi-directional loop with the silver route extension and the orange route extension. I told you gold this morning, no wonder you're looking at me like I was an idiot, Greg. I meant silver and orange, and going out there. And I guess microtransit, what is that exactly? Is it just a car? Is it a van? Greg said it might be a scooter, but I don't know if he was kidding. I was very,
Especially in January.
Greg?
like, I just,
Sure.
you said that.
I did. I said micro mobility devices defined in the code are one-person
Okay,
transportation
Oh.
features.
so micro, is that like, would it be a car then, or a bus, or something, and it just kinda hangs around in that area and waits for the text from somebody that's like, come get me, and then it brings you there, but it's only for that area?
Well, yeah, on that page 50 that you're referring to, there's a little blue box that actually says about microtransit, and they don't describe exactly what that vehicle is, which I'll have them do.
Okay,
But yeah, it's kind of like an on-demand service
okay,
that folks could, the way I understand it, folks could say, hey, I'm in this zone, can you get me within this zone or to the next zone, however we decide to put that together.
okay,
And it would usually be some type of van or passenger vehicle
okay.
like that. If it,
Not
you
like
know,
a
some of
VW
them
bug or
have,
something.
that'd be sweet, but yeah, some of them have ADA, you know,
Yeah,
compatibility with them.
okay. I just thought that was interesting, and I love the idea of somehow or another getting that sector of town, because there is nothing out there for
Right.
people. When I asked my 12-year-old what would he prefer of walking over to Chile Camp, because we live in Rockwood, to hop on the bus, or would he prefer to get on an app and get in a car with somebody, he was like, what kind of car is it and what is it? Like, I think that that's what made me bring that question up, right? For like, he's like, I wanna know if as a minor, I would be safe in this vehicle, so that's where it kinda came up. And then, if it is an app, will they pick up young kids, or do they have to have a parent with them? Whereas on the bus, like, the kids could just hop on it and be good to go. I know that's nitpicky, but it's just questions.
Okay. We'll add them to the list, cause
Okay.
I don't have the answer.
Okay, that was one thing.
Good question though.
But I do love the idea of getting some kind of transportation out there, so thank you for that, especially the Chile Camp people, cause I think they get stranded out there. Just talking horses. And then, I was trying to the bus staying to DIA, I also love that idea, but how do people get to their hotels and things from there? Like, would they have to work something out for them? Would they just get dropped off at the visitor center with all their bags and they're like, good luck?
The local hotels?
Well, yeah, cause there was an idea that they wanna bring the bus staying from DIA to Estes, that was in here, and I think that's great, but then what do they do when they get here?
Well, or I think some of the thought was, and again, you know, it's probably not completely described in here, but like the A line that goes from the train to the plane, so to speak, from the airport that would take you to Union Station, then you could get Bustang from there on the Bustang to Estes, and then from there. So there's probably a few steps involved in that.
So not just
So
a
there may
direct
just
pickup
be-
of the bus staying from
Yeah,
DIA.
I think there need to be some clarity in that section. What page was that? Did you write that down?
I did, it was towards the bottom.
Okay.
I'll find it for you, let me know. It was just, that was just something that I thought of, like, how does that work for people? I like the idea, but also what do they do when they get here and so forth, so maybe a little bit more detail in that. And the red and gold route alignment swap, I was a fan of that. I have a lot of people that wanna know how to get from downtown up to the Stanley and stuff, so I like how you broke those up, and I think that it'll be better for, people in their transit, and time-wise too, for getting people around town, so I like that idea. And I think that was all my notes,
Okay.
I just, but yeah, if you figure the, and also, that's a lot of money to run a bus. Like, it's, I know that's not part, but wow, like, when I look at all of this, it's like, and is it worth the amount of passengers that are going on it to do all of these routes too, so I guess that's the.
Sure. Well, and we talked about that one time at one of our last meetings, but I'm pretty proud that we were able to get it down to $4.97 per passenger for what we use our system for. But again, the majority of that is the red route, right? So of the 110 passengers, 110,077 some rode the red. So if you took some of those outlying routes, that cost would be higher for those, for sure, which is kind of what they're highlighting in here.
Okay. I think that was all that I had. I'm sure there's more, and I'll be talking more.
That's great. I will get this is the plan, you know, Kimley Horn is doing this for us, but they hired a subcontractor, Nelson Nygaard, to work on the transit development plan. This is their specialty. So I'll obviously get this to Kimley Horn, but then we'll also be talking with Nelson Nygaard. Hi.
Because of the cost of how much it is to run a bus, since I worked with the buses at the school for so many years, I love the idea of our, I don't know the verbiage, but the local town Uber, especially down in Carriage Hills. Like, that's where.
The microtransit component, sure.
Microtransit, especially down in the Carriage Hills area where, you know, that is where we live as well. And so that was really exciting. It's kind of off the ball idea, and I like it, and I think it would save a lot of money. I also love the idea, and you guys have maybe talked about this before, but of putting the bicycle racks on the buses, because those are usually used by our local people. And so if they are trying to get from one point to another, that would be really helpful. So I loved that.
And that's a program that we have done in years past. I didn't do it on the buses this year, but we've got 2 bike racks already in storage, ready to deploy on the buses that we're renting this year. In the past, we've leased those, but last year we rented from our transit provider, which saves $63,000 on the cost of the leasing over the term.
Fantastic. I'm fairly new, so I didn't actually know that. So I loved that. Everything's pretty straightforward. I see a lot of people using the buses when I'm up on the north side of town, of Dry Gulch. There's a lot of families and stuff that I've seen waiting for those bus stops. So I think it's a good program. I like the idea of expanding at least when. I've had coworkers and stuff when I worked at the school that would literally wait for the day that they would be able to ride the bus in the summer. And so that's really important and really count down for them. And so that, I like the idea of expanding, but I know that there's a money issue there as well.
Do you think the hours are right?
I think the hours are good. I think it's the dates. Like I have a list of friends that my kids know if they see walking that those, like, you can pick up that person and take them to work. So I think that is beneficial. I've seen that firsthand. But that's all I got.
Okay.
Like she said, I love the microtransit idea. I think it's a cost-effective way to build ridership. And I wonder if we shouldn't also consider something like that as extending the season, as a way to extend the season, particularly out towards the west end of town, where the distances are relatively long and empty buses just don't make sense. The other thing that, something that I'm really wondering about, so we have the blue and the silver lines going respectively on the north and the south sides of Lake Estes from the visitor center, but there's no connection between the two of them. And my impression is that a lot of our neediest community members live at the ends of particularly the Blue Line. There's a lot of services out there at the end of the Blue Line, and there's all the schools and stuff out there at the end of the Silver Line. And wouldn't it be really a great way to serve the community if we had a loop around the lake instead of out and back, so that people could get directly from Dry Gulch to the schools or Dry Gulch to the community center without having to change buses?
So more of an express route, certain hours maybe?
Well, not even, no, actually what I was thinking is that there's out and back on the Blue Line and there's out and back on the Silver Line, but if instead they turned into circles around the lake, you'd be getting essentially the same routing and the same stops, but schedule-wise, you'd be now connecting the very east end of the valley, north and south of the lake, in a way that would really facilitate people using those routes.
Yeah, that may work. I mean, right now our system is hub and spoke, right? So, yeah, they all come in and they're on fixed routes, where what you're talking about would definitely change that dynamic, but it may make sense. I've heard that before from folks that say, I've got health services out here and I've got health services over here, and that's kind of the indication we gave to the Nelson Nygaard team, was help us kind of solve that based on our current routes and timing.
Yeah.
So maybe 2 hubs, like a bicycle?
Well, not even 2 hubs, but just instead of simply out and back, loop this way or loop this way. Connect the
Got that
far ends
note.
of those 2 routes.
Blue and silver loop.
And then the other thing, which is kind of an insoluble problem, is actually integrating our transit with Rocky Mountain National Park Transit. It's, yeah, I have no suggestions for it, but it's a
Yeah.
big glaring need.
How would that look for you?
I'm sorry?
How would that look, like integrate? Specifically, can you say something?
Because right
just-
now,
Yeah,
they are integrated at the hub.
right.
So,
Visitor center.
so a visitor comes to the valley, they want to park their car at the visitor center garage or the event center parking lot. Oh, that reminds me of another comment. And they want to take the shuttle into the park. Well, but they want to stop at the visitor center, but they can't do that because the park shuttle currently skips the visitor center. For instance, so there's a
The
lot.
town visitor center or the
Sorry,
Beaver Meadows
the
visitor
Beaver
center?
Meadows.
Oh, the beaver,
Oh, that's a
okay.
conversation with the park.
Yeah, so
So that kind of
Okay,
conversation.
we're talking Beaver Meadows
Yeah,
business, okay.
those kinds of conversations with the park to really come up with solutions that serve the visitors as opposed to are restricted by jurisdiction.
Yeah.
But then the last thing it reminded, as I started to say that, is, so my perception of the Red Line Shuttle is that it's really serving our visitors and their needs to get around downtown.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And we have the outline parking at the event center, which isn't really which conceptually it's a visitor service getting into and around town, but the transit doesn't connect them because they have to take one line to the visitor center and then a different one to get around downtown. And I think it would be potentially much better serving of our visitors if the red line extended out to the event center parking lot. Particularly as we're trying to make that more integrated into our visitor parking,
Well, there are certain days where the
Portfolio.
garage is almost full.
especially.
And on an overload day, where the garage is full and we say, go to the rodeo,
Yep,
if that line would automatically
Yeah,
extend when that sign is at the garage full,
and that's usually what we end up doing is running the silver route when it's in session and just taking that and running that.
but that would be much more
On a-
frequently
yeah,
than
on a faster
extending the red
headway,
line.
yes.
It would only get there every hour or so.
You do have to remember the red line already has trouble keeping on time because of traffic,
Yeah.
so throwing it out that extra, even though it's just a mile, and then having to come through that main intersection then could add,
Yeah.
10 minutes on to everything when it runs late. I know it looks convenient, but how many, I think I asked at one of the meetings, and it was when Vanessa was working, what percentage of that parking lot is filled throughout the year, and she said 3%. When nobody's parking there, and it's most of the, only unless there's an event there, but other than that, only 3% of that lot is filled, and I said, is that because people work in that building, and she goes, probably.
so I think the future vision is to make better use of that parking lot and a better connection would make better use of it.
Totally, I agree with that, but I
So,
don't know
but
if doing with the
exactly
red
how
route
to
would be
do
the
it,
best
I'm not
way.
sure.
Yeah.
But I think that should be, more thought should go into
I
that.
love that you're thinking that because we're thinking that.
Yes,
Yes.
I love you too.
Okay.
Dana, do you remember the details of the green route? And we were running express.
Yeah, we're running it.
We ran exactly the model that Joan's talking
Mm-hmm.
about.
It was the green route and it ran from 11 to 4 on weekends, and we have that integrated into our plan for 2025, pending funding to do this exact same thing, but it's not called the green route. And it runs from visitor center or from event center to visitor center to Bond Park.
Sweet.
Just those 3 stops.
Yeah.
Just those 3 stops.
So it's a.
Cuts the headway.
The red is an express route back and forth to downtown. This is an express route from the from the events complex to visitor center to Bond Park to address the demand you're talking about. Now, we've run that before. Do you remember what the ridership was?
Yeah.
It depends very much on if the garage fills up, exactly what we're talking about.
And how many days out of the year does the garage fill
It
up?
filled up 15 times last year at
Right.
85%
So
or
we'll
so.
hope that maybe this year it's 20, right?
But we run it on weekends, so
Totally.
yes.
So I think as that expands, it's a great idea to think about, but don't take it away from our bus system now, that extra.
So weekends that end with the word fest should have that bus schedule.
So
They
September,
should.
October.
Yeah, we had it slid the other way, but that's one of the lessons learned is it needs to slide more toward the end of the year than the
Yeah.
beginning of the year,
Yeah, that's
because that's when the garage is filling up.
So is the proposal, I'm gonna continue to call it the green route, is the proposal to run the green route weekends only in 2025?
Yes.
So, solution is in the works for your
That's great.
suggestion.
Oh,
Pending funding.
and to use the variable
Storyline.
message signs where people enter the valley to remind them that we have this outline shuttle parking is in service.
Yes.
We need
And we
digital
actually do that,
messaging.
yeah, we
That
do
was
that
my
actually
comment.
too, yeah. We have messaging that, but we have
Yeah.
to manually update it ourselves, so that requires somebody getting on the computer to update that.
And can that type of signage begin where the overlook is, where the Estes Park sign is? And like, as people approach and they can kind of start settling into the valley and preparing before they get to Lake Estes.
Yeah, I'm thinking the VMS sign we have at Mall Road, or
So
close
the
to Mall
answer to your
Road.
question is not in 2025.
Okay,
That's CDOT's road,
yeah,
Oh,
CDOT approval, we have to go through all the process to get CDOT approval.
yeah,
So at that location, no, we don't have the opportunity for this season to do that advanced signage. But what we do have is electronic sign at Cherokee Draw
okay.
and at not Steamer Drive,
4th or,
on.
Yeah, there's one on
34.
34 and 36, kind of near
Summit-
Mall
Summit
Road,
Drive.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have
Summit, yeah.
two electronic signs that we can use to message, and we do. We have a whole menu of messages we put out,
Yeah.
and we change them in response to the demand we're getting on the weekends.
Same with the two-sided sign at the parking structure. Change that one too, to
Oh,
give
that's
people.
right. There's one
Yeah,
too,
and that's
too.
where we tell people, closed with options, and then that's when we activate that extra
and
route.
it seems like recently, some of the digital messaging was, really focused on rerouting for Rocky Mountain National Park as they were building up like Fall River entrance and, so maybe there'll be a little bit more airtime, so to speak, that we could use, for the future. Cause otherwise it feels like,
Well, it's in the moment. We don't,
Right.
we don't pre-schedule this, because we
Right,
don't
it
know
is
what the
events.
demand's gonna be, and so Dana
Yeah.
has to work weekends to talk to his staff and is the parking structure full? We just flip the messages and
Let me
send
flip
people
them,
out to
yeah.
the events complex, yeah.
okay. Okay, so it's situational.
It's
not
very
necessarily-
situational.
So it's not
yeah.
necessarily weekends, it could be something else.
Yeah, 4th of July or
Yeah.
an event.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just, I'm wondering like priority then, if there's a slew of messages that need to be out there, I'm just wondering.
They're built. Like in the system, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got them built, so I
Okay.
can literally change them.
Like our messages overrides Rocky Mountain National Park message.
They
Is
always
that-
would, yeah.
is that always
Yeah,
happens?
that's
Okay.
never been an issue. And
Okay.
Rocky Mountain, we message for Rocky Mountain on a very, very scarce basis.
Okay,
Do they have
Typically-
any signs?
Pardon me?
Do they have signs?
Not to my knowledge.
Inside the.
Port-
Inside the park.
Yeah.
The portable that they brought out last
Okay.
year, I think, but
Seemed like I had seen one, but you're right, that's maybe what that was.
portable.
well, among the people given their Valentine's walking papers are a batch of gatekeeper people at the park. And so there's going to be longer lines at each of those 2-hour blocks at both gates this summer. And eventually, when the line's bad enough, the federal authorities may figure it out and allow them to replace, but everybody who's been hired within a year, they're gone. And that's the place they got the most of those new people in the park. They're not,
Everybody that was hired in the last 2 years.
yeah, and they have volunteers allowed to do lots of other things in the park,
Not handle money.
but not handle money or the gate. And so, there'll still be somebody at Bear Lake telling you, don't fall in the lake or whatever they tell you.
Those are volunteers.
Yeah, they can replace them with volunteers, but the gate people, they can't. So we may need or want to have, a plan in case the line gets the
or
way it
find out
used
what,
to.
Sherry Yost is thinking or what they're planning at the moment.
And there are people in town that are already thinking about messaging to visitors and like how we're gonna present it to guests and things like that, like this is what to expect, what not to expect as more details come out, so just know that there's a lot of people, especially on the business end and Visit Estes Park, that are working to help get that information out for people, so it is a better experience, cause I think the best way to handle it will be education, unfortunately.
And as a reminder, those VMS signs, we can't put anything commercial on those. They
Shop
have-
at Simply Christmas.
Yeah, exactly.
Dang it.
None of that can go in. So that's why our messaging sometimes is, it's very specific, very dry, very
Do not pet the elk.
to the point, yeah,
Well, but when you're driving, that's what you need,
That's
is
right.
as few
Yeah.
words
yeah.
and succinct as possible,
I
yeah.
think my comment also earlier is just also, it would be nice to have signage that is before the lake, because it feels like there's more stimulation as you get closer to town and other signage you're looking at, and it just seems like, you know, it just helps with planning within a car,
For the wow factor.
you know?
Well, there's an important point there. When you come down that hill from the Visit Estes Park posed by the sign, everybody in the car is looking at Lumpy Ridge and the lake and everything else, and the sign's not the most interesting thing to see. But before that Estes Park sign, it's pretty boring. We've seen the same mountain on both sides for a while.
There's a stretch, like, yeah, they could be strategic, and yes, it
Before it
involves
opens up.
CDOT, what, you know, regulations,
Yeah.
but,
So are you, are you asking for an amendment to one of these plans?
No.
To speak to that, are you going
no, I guess
on a
not, but
quasi-related rabbit trail?
it just seems like, no, to make it more effective. And, you know, this might be kind of higher level at this point, but, I just, you know, watching how the dynamic signage has been, I think it can be improved, so. You got
I have a note for the
I have a
portable.
question, what you said, Greg. We couldn't have one at the Estes Park sign, but could we have one downhill from the Estes Park sign? Or any of them
Well,
are
I'm not-
still?
I hope my comment wasn't interpreted as we can't have,
I meant this
we
year.
can't ask for a sign. You can, so the answer to your follow-up question here is the same as the other one.
Okay, that's what I-
It's CDOT right of way, any proposal for a sign
Okay.
needs to be designed to comply with all their requirements, and it has to be approved by CDOT. But the proposal, CDOT would expect it to be routed through our staff, through our public works staff.
Okay.
And,
And right now, we don't have any item in the 2025 budget for new electronic signage or static signage in the CDOT right of way.
ideally, I would love to see a static sign that's nice looking, that's permanent, and people can,
And what message, help me
Just like
understand,
it
Belle,
would
what
be-
message would you want to communicate to the motorist?
it would be just updates on what to look out for. Like if there's something, event coming on, so you have options to park here, there, and yonder, like a quick,
That sounds like a variable message sign, not a static sign.
yeah, that's true.
But there's a sign on the garage that says free park at the garage.
Yeah.
But by the time I see it, if I've got a family in the car and I'm on
Right.
my way to Bond Park, I may not react to it, but 2 miles before that, if there's a sign that says, free
There is.
parking at the garage,
Yeah.
We
free
can update
red
that.
shuttle up and downtown.
Yeah, that is one of the message types that we have, that we post on
Right.
the sign, 2 miles or a mile ahead of the
Yeah.
parking center at Cherokee Draw.
And
So
I'm
that
saying
is
sooner.
an active component of our management strategy.
I'm
Where's
wondering-
Cherokee Draw? Sorry, where is Cherokee?
Cherokee Draw is is east of the power plant. It's the picnic grounds.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I'm just thinking something sooner, as well as that opportunity. But something before where people are starting to plan, and we're descending down Pole Hill, where people start going down, and here we are in the valley, and, some sort of,
And it wouldn't
Make it
have to be a
permanent.
changing message, you could always say, garage is free,
yeah.
you know.
Free visitor parking, blah, blah.
Yeah, during the season, there might be, you know, prepare to park at event center. You know, prepare to take a left, you know, prepare something.
I think people are used to those signs because they see them on the interstates when they drive to work every day, and so they do respond well to those variable signs. I like that
And,
concept.
you know, if it had a welcoming flavor to it.
Are we
Doesn't-
going around the table,
So we
or
are.
are we all jumping in?
Well,
at
we're
Wally.
finishing up here, and we're,
The only thing I could add that somebody hasn't already mentioned is that, we have a number of, disabled people who use the transit. And this micro transit could replace getting on the bus for those of them that arrange that ahead of time. And, solves the problem of someone rolling the wheelchair to the bus stop and, can, next time we have to have a bus with a pickup lift or a ramp on it, it's scary how much cheaper this can be than modifying the bus or buying the expensive bus.
Well, the good is all of our transit vehicles are ADA compliant,
They
yeah.
already
With,
are.
yeah, they all have ramps and they all have, 2 stations for wheelchairs,
You can
yeah.
walk a wheelchair.
Dana, do you have any ridership information from our on-demand microtransit system that we've been running the last couple of years through VIA?
I don't,
Because
I
we've
didn't get any
been
of that.
offering this microtransit option to the public in the summers for at least 2 years.
And I could get that
And
from
maybe-
VIA.
Maybe more.
Yeah,
Is that specifically for handicap, or is that for everybody?
Anybody, anybody.
yeah, but,
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Really?
Not well advertised.
yeah, it could be better
So how do
known.
we, how do we get the word out?
Is that the-
And we're-
Yeah,
we're
I've
not
done it at
using
the
that.
hospital, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
Vanessa's
not VIA, is
incorporated
it?
it
That
into
is
her
VIA.
Yeah, it is.
presentations over and over.
I remember, generations ago when they changed Knoxville to make all the buses ADA compliant, they computed out how much it would cost to do that. And you could hire a car and driver for every person that needed that service for a lot less money. But, it's a different thing to ask for, right?
That's right.
So the difference with this would be via, like the via, whatever it is, you have to reserve it 24 hours ahead of time. This would have the technology with it that would be almost immediate, is what you're saying here. Is
Well,
the
yeah,
difference,
now-
like with this plan that's going on here.
Right, but we're contemplating now ADA vehicles for this, where I don't know that that was contemplated in their original, original plan. That's one of the notes that I made from you guys was,
Yeah.
would we have all of those ADA compliant, or would we have certain vehicles and folks that are trained on that?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, got it.
Okay.
The lead time distinction, I'm not sure what the answer
You're
is,
not
Chris.
immediate, but
Yeah,
It's pretty fast
It
in
says
Estes, cause there's not much demand. We've been using it in my family for my mother.
Oh,
you've been using VIA?
so it doesn't require 24 hours notice then, no.
Call and they'll let you know.
You call and if you have a driver
Either they got,
available.
They
either
just
they're
suggest it.
open seat or
Yeah,
not.
that's
Usually
the-
there's an open
The
seat.
whole spirit of on-demand.
Yeah.
Okay,
The only requirement is you have your driveway shoveled.
that's fair.
You what? You what?
Keep your roadway, they have to be accessible.
keep it
by-
shoveled.
Yeah, keep it cleaned, so,
I'll ask about their ridership and report
got
back at the
marketing
next
for that.
meeting.
yeah. Yeah, and that's funded, it's a Larimer County thing, isn't it?
I believe
I
so,
think
yeah,
that
it's not something we're funding separate that I know of.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that go from here
Kristen?
to Loveland?
Do you wanna?
I
comment
don't think
about
right now, that's
anything
one
you're
of the things we're
tracking?
working
Sure.
on, yeah.
I actually really liked the proposal for year 1, year 2 and beyond. I thought it made a lot of sense based on the feedback they got, which seemed like what we expected to in terms of mostly visitors responded, mostly residents responded, but also some visitors responded to the surveys. I really like the bi-directional silver route. I think that's super cool. I would, if I had, I know it's kind of late to say this, but I think Peakview will be hard to put bus stops on, just given the road geometry. But I think the Marys Lake Road corridor would be a really good area to maybe add to that route or a different route. There's just a really high concentration of short-term rentals there.
Yeah.
I thought the time of service they're proposing to extend it daily was really great, and since our busiest month seems to be September for visitation, I love that now we'll capture that in the transit. I think that'll be really great. The one other thing is I guess I'll echo what Joan said. I wish there was more collaboration with the Park Service, and I don't know, I have no suggestions for that. It was one of the biggest comments, and I think something a lot of the visitors want. I don't know if there's just a way to let the Park Service know that there might be more demand for that service.
Larry, do you have any opportunity or opinion to speak to that. The National Park has assigned a representative to attend these meetings.
And she never
They
comes.
rarely do.
Yeah.
And there's reasons for it, though.
Yeah.
I don't wanna be harshly critical. So the community's asking for this collaboration. Can you elaborate on the barriers that exist, why that's a
I
challenge?
wish I could, but I've been retired for
Too long.
several years. And John Hannon, who was the liaison, even when he and I frequently were a part of this, he is now retired.
Yeah,
And I don't know who has.
Sherry's, I think, is the
She
assignment.
may be the assigned person to hear, but
Yeah.
I think they'll have a transit manager.
Oh, John's duties have not been assigned to a new person yet.
Not that I don't know for
Not
sure.
that I know of.
We can certainly forward the request.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see if you had any insight, and it's okay you don't. But we're doing what we know to do, which is invite them to come and participate in the conversation.
I would reach out to Sherry Yost, it is, as the liaison, I think she would be the point person.
I think I can chime in here. One of the meetings that we were having about one of these at one point, Dana, I think you might have been in there.
Yep.
We were told that the National Park Service kinda wants to keep a hand's distance on the hiker shuttle. Because they're not guaranteed that it's gonna be there every year or forever. So they got a little twitchy when we started talking about incorporating them further into it. So it is, and obviously this was all before the landscape changed with the federal government and all the pink slips being handed out. So it's another one of those things where they provide it as a service, but it's not a guarantee that it's gonna be there forever. So ideally, you would hope with 4 million visitors a year, they would be committed to it. But that's just not, that's not the feeling that I got from our conversation. So,
It's all dependent on funding.
sure.
Yeah, it is.
Sure. And it's an easy cut, unfortunately.
Yeah, and ridership,
Right,
yeah.
right.
But half the
They are
tourists
full.
stay on the side of town that's between the visitor center and the park. And for those people, it's like an emotional problem to go backwards to the visitor center to get on the bus to go in the park. And if there was a stop
At headquarters, talking about,
at Beaver Meadows Visitor
Yeah,
or
B&B.
at,
they used to do it, but then they, for some
Yeah.
reason, took it out.
someplace along there where there was
They
room for
didn't
people.
have
So
sufficient
this is,
parking.
this is a conversation, Wally, that
It's
needs
been
to
around.
happen with
With
the
the
National
park.
Park Service.
Yeah.
This isn't a
It's
town.
not ours,
Yeah.
no.
I'm
But I
wondering,
don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
And more of it's coming back to me now, it was in the discussion of what we put in our plan. They didn't want us putting anything in there that made it seem like it was a guarantee that the hiker shuttle was gonna be
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
Could we just provide this report to the Park Service somehow and say, based on our research, this is a demand, and I don't know if that would help them get any type of funding from
We-
wherever they get funding, I don't know.
Right, we submitted these two plans to the Park Service, and,
Okay.
and the comment we got back from them was, great job, we appreciate this, but we can't have you anchor any of this to us because of funding, was, I guess, kind of the way they said it, so.
But I do like the concept of giving Rocky, the data that supports the demand. So that, because then they can use that in their internal documents and
Yeah.
funding stuff, and I think that's something, that's a low-hanging fruit, something we can do for them.
Yeah, we'll absolutely get them copies of these final plans.
Not just the whole 350 pages, but a specific one-page summary of, the data that's relevant to them about demand, I think would be a real gift.
Yeah, with the appendix supporting that information.
In
you
your
bet.
mind's eye, do you see where that data set exists? I don't know where to put my hands on it.
I don't know where to put my hands on it either, but I'm sure if we dug deep enough, we could find it, because everything is in there.
Yeah, they have the data.
They have the data.
Yeah, they've got
It's
data
their
on
data.
their hiker shuttles for sure. We could just provide,
Do we need to
in
ask
my
them
mind,
for it? Like, hey.
Well, they have their own data.
yeah.
I don't-
In my mind, we just give them copies of these in the appendix that would help them, I guess, tell their story as they need to.
If
But I
they're
think
submitting funding.
Yeah, I
Who's
think to
asking?
Larry's point, this is all for them to distill, and we need to just distill this plan for now. So that being said, what else do you have, Kristen?
That was all, I like it overall, yeah.
Okay, good.
I
Sir.
had furnished my comments on a thumb drive at our last meeting. So the only thing I wanted to mention is, I wanted to pile on to the events center parking. There was a comment in the, transit development plan that the events center parking was like high visibility, and it's not. It's not. And so, to me, I think it's really important, as we've heard multiple times, that when the parking structure is full, major event in town, if we need to encourage people to use that area, that messaging needs to be very visible with how to get there. How can you get to the event center parking and get on a shuttle bus to get in town? The plan looked fine to me, otherwise, that was the one thing that, and we've all talked about it, that the event center complex, we could, make it more visible on Highway 36 with probably, we may need more variable message signs, I don't know.
Would it be possible to add a permanent sign at that roundabout at the bottom of Community Drive, exit here for the event center parking, or outline
For
parking?
free
It's there.
event
It's
center.
there, but it's so fast and it's small,
It's
you know.
events complex is the message.
Yeah.
No,
I don't know if it's
parking.
effective.
specifically about outline parking or
No.
shuttle parking or
Doesn't
something
say
like
that.
that. But could we, should we? I guess that's the question.
That's my
Yes,
comment.
we could work with CDOT and modify that sign. But the challenge we have is people tend to not believe the sign. They say, I'm going to Bond Park and I'm gonna go to the most convenient spot downtown and
'Cause I know where it
I
is
am
and
not,
nobody
I am
else.
not going to the visitor center
No.
and walking downtown unless I'm forced to.
Absolutely, they will always
I feel
start
so-
downtown first.
And I
They
feel
will
so
always.
validated that Greg just repeated what I always say.
Always.
Yes.
Unless we
You
build
have
a
to trust me.
reputation.
Yeah,
For
you have to
having
trust me.
reliable shuttle parking.
That's
So,
right,
yes,
reliable
we can- Yes,
shuttle.
we can put a sign out there, but don't, I caution you about raising your expectations that it's gonna do anything. Yeah.
I think my favorite quote from Greg ever was, do you know how many people actually read signs when they drive past them? And I was like, no, and he's like, not a lot. And I was like, okay.
Well, human nature is that, yeah, the parking structure is full, but someone's leaving, there's gotta be a spot
And you're-
there
you know,
just for
yes.
me.
And there will-
Yeah.
And that happens on Bear Lake Road in the park
Oh,
all
yeah.
the
All the
time.
time.
All the
Use the
time
parking
there.
right. Oh, there's
Town
gotta
Hall
be.
lot, I love Town Hall lot, I'm the visitor, I'm going downtown, we're so excited. Town Hall lot is close, I bet you somebody's leaving right now. I'll ignore all the sign messages and I will go look for that.
And I'll
But the
drive
bottom
up
of
and
the
down the
variable
aisles
message sign
for
needs
15
to
minutes.
say, yes, this means you.
That's right, I promise.
That's a good,
That's it.
Well, and when you add on, punitive pricing structures for people who try and park downtown, suddenly the outline lots look a whole lot more attractive.
I fully agree.
A charge for driving up and down the
About
aisles.
that.
That's why Mr. Joy.
Have you been on this road before? You saw this
If
license.
you go past this
All right.
spot a second time,
You're gonna
you're
pay.
paid for parking whether you park or not.
That's it. We're riding the racetrack. All right, Linda.
Well, pretty much everything everybody has said, I have thought everybody has said. The biggest takeaway from this is the Maris Lake Road Peakview Loop. I think that was what I glommed onto it originally.
From the perspective of all the short-term rentals and residential.
Both, yeah. Lots of full-time residentials.
Yep.
Out there too, but I think that's completing something that has needed to happen.
With perhaps the idea that the stepwise way to getting there is have, at least for now, microtransit covering that entire loop.
Okay.
Let's see, I like the micromobility, transit, whatever. Let's see, also, just the fact that y'all gave us some options on funding resources, like, so it's not just kinda left. I think that gives us hope. You know? And, let's see, yeah, and I'm glad to see, the point about the zero emission vehicles. I think that's really, a good thing. Yeah, and everything that everyone's saying, I like the, some sort of green route. I think it's important to just start working on elevating the event center parking lot and that periphery parking lot and just keep building it. In all these different, recommendations you're hearing already.
Good. Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of good recommendations, and I'm getting the feeling that this one you're feeling is better written than the other one.
100%.
Okay,
Free car wash.
Yep.
good,
Yeah,
good, okay, that helps for sure. I know the error with the figures and, again, spotted that right away as well, but other than that, I'm pleased to hear that.
Then it would be high visibility.
I could just throw out one more thing. I like the way it's structured. We have the stuff we're doing in 1 year that's pilot programs, and depending on the outcomes of those, we will implement from this menu. And then 5 years from now, then we'll figure out what we actually need to do long-term. I like that structure.
Absolutely.
Okay,
There was one editing thing in there, it talked about the routes coming to the Ridge Line. You might wanna change that to the Holiday Inn, cause it's no longer the Ridge
Yep.
Line, just so you know.
good catch, that's
Yeah.
perfect, okay. Yeah, when they did this in '23,
was
obviously,
still
that's
Ridge, yeah.
Ridgeline.
Or it was the
No.
old Holiday Inn, it was never the Ridge
Yeah.
Line.
Same
Yeah.
people, different branding.
So if
Yeah.
you've lived here,
I remember a sign
long
that
as
said
you have.
Ridgeline.
Huh?
yes.
it's always been a Holiday Inn.
It is, I know,
You've
it was
lived here as long as you.
well, just like all the houses on your street are named after the people who used to live in it, it's not your house until you have moved away from it.
Perfect. These are good. Thank you for this feedback. Definitely something I can give them, and I had already submitted your jump drive comments to the group, so
Thanks.
we'll take this back with them.
I did think of one more thing, how well the red line is used. And that's what I notice. We loop as pedestrians so much along West Elkhorn and down. There's such a difference because there is double the traffic there was. That's really working well.
I think so too. I think your guys' help with the branding, and it's just fun now. It's just fun.
It is.
Yeah.
It's our own local hop-on, hop-off.
It is.
Cool, thanks. MTP updates. Jeff and I met with the Kimley Horn consultant twice virtually since our last meeting. They worked on distilling some comments and gave us some comment forms to show everyone that their comments were, what happened with those, and we're going through those forms now. We got those yesterday, so, to Larry's point of that's not ready for prime time, what we got yesterday is not ready for tab time. That's my word.
Well, like
So
what you did there.
we have to look through that and just make sure that all
Well
of the
done,
things
Bill.
that we talked about are in there, and then we'll bring it back to you.
So Dana, before our next tab meeting in March, will we get a heads up when they're ready to, both documents are
Yes, sir.
ready to review?
Yes.
Perfect.
To give you enough time to read through those. And then again, the hope is, I think, to get information from you all and if you're ready to approve it or provide recommendation or not. I think our goal would be to take this to the town board. I think we have it on our tracker right now for April 22nd at the latest.
Okay, good. So we've got
Yeah,
some time.
so if, at the latest, it'd be great to do it sooner, but yeah, I've got to close that loop by then, I think,
Okay.
with the consultants and everything. So that's what Jeff and I have on our tracker right now.
Yeah, I appreciate just even like 3% final stage,
Yep, almost like 30, 60, 90,
just like a
drawings,
little
just,
sliver, so.
we'll give you guys some information, but again, we just got it yesterday afternoon and yeah, I don't wanna give it to you till we've looked at it and
Yeah.
made sure that it's correct.
Okay. And I'm glad it seemed like it fell under their contract anyway, like
Yeah.
their expectation that we had as a town. so.
That is correct.
Okay. So that would be next steps, I guess.
Yeah, for us, that'd be next steps is just, really reviewing this time and making sure i's are dotted, t's are crossed, comments are in there, and then send it out to you all. So you have time to see it before the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, and then from that tab, we will, at the next meeting, we can hopefully come up with a recommendation. And if it needs to be a position, kind of what we liked about, what we didn't like, why we overall loved it, but there are these few little things made us, wonder, maybe that could be the next update in the future, 5 years from now or something like that. But see what comes up.
Great.
So, anything else? Okay. Thanks for reading it and giving feedback.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's good.
It's awesome.
I
Okay.
appreciate all the work everybody did on both of these documents. It's a lot of reading, It's like a term paper, right? 200 pages and then rewrite what you learn from it and things, so.
It's hard to stay awake.
Good job, all of you. Next time we'll put little images in there and things.
I have
so
to
you get
like read it in the morning and not nighttime.
Oh, it's definitely not bedtime reading.
Definitely not.
Okay. Well, we do have a little time. Is there any updates from engineering?
I was gonna say, we put something else in the packet, didn't we?
Yes, you did.
The Larimer County,
Okay.
Larimer County, yeah, update.
And were those hard to read when everybody else tried to read them?
your
I
eyes
just
are
had
at least
to
as old,
go
not-
big.
not quite as old as mine.
That,
Not quite as old as
those
it is.
2 pages were pretty hard to read.
Yeah,
They're tiny. It
If
didn't
you have it
matter.
electronically, right, you can zoom
You
in on the
can, yeah.
PDF.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't do that well when I tried it.
Well, tell us if it's illegible, if it was useless, then we can do something
I
different.
just,
Make it
I
look
just
better.
enlarged it on my screen.
So
Okay.
what is the point of it?
Well, I think, Greg or Jeff could probably talk a lot better on it, but it's a prioritization project for
County projects.
projects in the
So-
county,
Larimer
yeah.
County, okay. And a lot
yeah.
of them are ours,
Yes.
A number of them were, so context.
okay.
This is feedback from member agencies of the Upper Front Range Transportation Planning Region, the TPR, the member agencies in Larimer County. The reason Larimer County is providing feedback to the Upper Front Range is the Upper Front Range is updating their 2050 regional transportation plan. And so the planning committee has asked each county to bring recommendations for projects in their county. So Larimer County accepted that assignment, reached out to us and to Wellington as the two communities that are in Larimer County and also members of the TPR. You may be asking, well, what about Fort Collins and Loveland? Yeah, they're in Larimer County, but they're under a different planning region. They're in the North Front Range MPO. Sorry for the alphabet soup here, but
Oh, I could give you a heyday, yeah.
yeah. So this regional transportation is being updated. Feedback regarding project input was requested to the counties. The counties reached out to the municipalities. We had a virtual meeting and talked through what are the needs in Estes, the needs in Wellington, Larimer County, listened carefully, wrote them down, updated the list, and so we wanted to just give you, include you in the loop and let you know these projects are on the radar for inclusion in the update to the regional transportation plan. In that conversation, I did give an overview of the tram idea. So we just, because it just had our meeting with the county was right after the last tab meeting. So for what it's worth, we talked about it verbally. They're just aware of Estes maybe having an interesting conversation someday in the future about a tram. But I wanted to share that, to let you know that your suggestions are not ignored by staff. We take them and try to incorporate them into our work, into our collaborative work with the region. So that's why we shared that information as a data point for you all to know what the regional conversations are looking like with respect to transportation needs, primarily on the state highway network.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that those are also in that MTP plan that we're talking about. So we're elevating those kind of just like we talked about and showing you that process.
So is the take home on this then that because these are also in the county or regional plan, that it'll be easier to get funded?
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
like that.
See, what the transportation planning regions do, they're a conduit for state money. And the state meaning CDOT is a conduit for federal money, so federal money
There
comes
isn't
to state, and the state then distributes it to the transportation planning regions. The transportation planning regions make their decisions on funding allocations according to the plan. If it's not in the plan, they're not gonna recommend that the project receive money.
That's right.
And since many of ours are in the top 10, that's really good.
Well, top 10
And they rank them.
in the ranking for Larimer County,
County.
then they'll go alongside the top 10 for Morgan County and the top 10 for Weld County and
And up to
and
Region
the
4.
overall ranking
Yeah.
for the region will get driven primarily by two things: traffic volumes and injury accidents on the network.
Oh, so we should all go out and get injured at these intersections.
We had thought
If
that
you wanna
before.
elevate it, decide when
Traffic,
you wanna-
talking about before.
Traffic volume helps
Cab
us.
Straws.
members put their life on the line.
Well, no, that's the point of
committed are you?
It
trolleyology
was
is
all for naught.
push
There was
another
only
guy
one
onto the
fatality
track.
and the other one had 10.
But, so for funding.
For the record, please don't do that.
This is recorded.
We should be having a pool where we buy a Powerball ticket in those states that have one. Because how much was it gonna cost per mile to put, a tram down?
Martin Slack reported 100 million per mile. The data that I found on the internet was 50 to 60 million per mile.
Oh, that's better though.
That's better.
That's
way
better.
better.
40% better.
I
Did you
like
tell
that
Mark?
one better.
Was he excited?
And we
of taffy
really
he's
don't
gonna
want
sell.
10 miles of it.
No,
For taxes.
It only has to be like 3 miles, right?
Yeah,
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, moving on.
but that's in the
So-
Powerball some states.
So Greg, was there, on here, what were y'all pushing more on? Was there a priority within y'all's group that you put
Yeah,
out there?
that list is
Is that the
priority
green?
ranked according to our discussion, yes.
Oh, okay.
So it's down
Yes.
at the bottom, the green? Or
Those
is it
are
just-
new,
No.
those haven't been ranked, I don't
Oh,
think.
There was two
yeah, they weren't.
categories, there was highway projects or intersection
Oh.
projects,
Oh,
and
I
then there
see.
was multimodal projects.
Multimodal,
So two
yeah.
categories, and they were ranked
Okay.
internal to those, 1 through 10 and 1 through 5.
Oh,
I think.
CF 36 4th Street.
Yep, it's there, your favorite one.
Thank you.
They're on there.
Appreciate this.
And we added projects that weren't on the list that were included in the MTP
That's
Right.
correct.
Oh.
from public feedback.
Okay.
Thank you for mentioning that. That is an important context comment. I wanted you to be able to see the value of having this conversation on our local planning documents,
Yeah.
and then how staff takes those recommendations and we carry them forward into the regional planning documents, primarily for the purpose of eligibility for funding.
Thank you.
Yeah. And negotiating.
I guess I see the other side of it though, like if it's in there, then it feels like it's a required thing that we have to do, so I just, that sits on my
Not really.
brain, and I don't know how to fix that, right? Cause when Clay Street's happening, all I hear is, well, it's in the plan, well, it's in the plan, so we have to do it, it's in the plan, it's not in best interest of everybody down here, but it's in the plan, so we have to do it. So I guess that's my biggest, like, concern with
Sure.
doing, does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense, and I'll agree that staff feels that there's a reason the town invests money in a master plan. It's to create a vision and present guidance for how our staff recommendations should be forwarded to the town board, and the board takes that as community feedback and guidance in their decision-making. But it's not, what's a good idea today may not be a good idea in 2 years or 5 years. So there is a lot of additional steps that follow the planning's document before the implementation. And so there is opportunity for additional feedback. There's always gonna be a town board action to talk about funding for the design and the construction. And if the community sentiment has changed from adoption of the plan to the year in which we're talking about designing and building, they can always be intercepted and changed.
But
In addition to that, these plans should be updated about every 5 years or so.
Yeah. I have a question then, is this the place where, having a bike, a multimodal path that goes parallel somehow Highway 34 connecting Estes Park to Loveland? Is that something, besides
yeah.
this other group that y'all were part of, is this also a group, this regional planning?
Yes,
Don't you
it
think that should be
is.
something that should be on there?
That's a
Seems
good
like-
question,
Yeah.
Bill. That is outside of the town limits, so we weren't necessarily
We'd be
feeling that
connected.
that's our message to carry,
Yeah,
but we're connected to one end of it, so I can see the logic there. Jeff, is this a better message conveyed by the county? As I say that, I think not, because they're not particularly motivated on serving alt modes as much as we may be.
Well, yeah, you kinda hit on it. It is something that should reside with the county, but the reality is that's not their priority. They have, again, their ballot initiative didn't pass, so they're very, very limited on funds. And they're gonna put the money where it goes to the greatest, larger
Benefit, yeah.
benefit.
yeah.
Yep.
I mean, the other piece of it is too, and, okay, you gotta be a pretty darn good bike rider to make the trip from Loveland to Estes Park.
Seriously.
This is not a recreational trail. It's, you have to be an athlete.
But
And
that
so
trail,
that's-
or
That,
doing it better, doesn't just benefit those bicyclists who could still ride up there from Loveland. All of us drive past those bicyclists that are out there, and we're supposed to stay 3 feet away from them, but we don't feel like there's room to do that. And making that trail 6 inches wider or better marked or labeled benefits drivers.
Sure.
Because if you hit a bicyclist, it ruins your day. It may ruin his life,
As much as it ruins
but
theirs,
it
but yeah.
ruins your day.
and the one thing I will point out, and this is just a hard fact, but the reality is Highway 34 through the canyon
It's done.
was rebuilt 14 years ago. And they did not make,
Yeah.
it is way better for cyclists than it was before the
Yeah.
flood, but they did not put in amenities for cyclists, so, and it was on the radar at that time, and they made a conscious dollar figure decision to not do it. And the same way with 36. Now, 36 did not get nearly the amount of damage that 34 did, but, so that's, I honestly think if that's ever gonna happen, it's gonna require a grassroots effort
Oh, yeah.
to bring it to light and drive that.
I think the most effective focal point for that grassroots effort is probably gonna be the CDOT alt modes group out of headquarters and or Region 4. Maybe that's the group that really is gonna have to step up and be the champion for that to happen.
Because, it could be, I'm envisioning something that's wide enough that you could also drive a vehicle on. And if you need it, part of an exit plan for
Sure.
fire mediation. Also, electric bikes are a thing, people use them and during certain seasons. In fact, all seasons, but, I don't know the number that would use it, but maybe people who live in the canyon might use it as an
Well,
alternative.
And this may be something I could mention to I'm gonna give you another acronym, the Go NOCA 34 TMO, the Transportation Management
Yeah.
Organization
Brought
that
up a
we're
lot.
part of, yeah.
Yeah.
So I could definitely make a mention to them of
Yeah.
this.
But I'm
That
just
may be
wondering-
something they could help champion too with the alt group.
I don't recall on this list if 34 was on it or not, but there were other portions of 36 and 7 that CDOT has on there as road widening, which we understand is creation of bike lanes, most likely. I don't think there was a project listing on 34 outside of town limits that included road widening, to my recollection.
Yeah.
And I concur with what you described in there.
Would it be just good to put it on the radar and
Yeah,
keep it hanging there for
It could be
some,
number 79 on the plan, but it's still
Or
in the plan.
106.
It'd be 80,
Yeah.
actually, there's already
But-
79 projects for a year
But it
for
just-
20 years.
Yeah, you know, you see Glenwood Springs, they have it, they've got one, which actually that goes all the way to DIA, you know, that route. And so why don't we have, another leg, you know, going up to Rocky Mountain National Park through Estes Park?
So years
So-
and years and years ago, I'm talking 15 years ago, you know the Front Range, what do they call it, the Colorado Front Range Trail, let's go from the Wyoming border to
Oh,
New
yeah.
Mexico border. Components of that are in this list. And I was working for the park at the time. The Forest Service and the Park Service were asked to look at making a connection from the Front Range Trail to the park. And we looked at various routes for that. I don't know where that, it didn't end up with any funding or anything. It was an exercise in looking at how we might be able to connect it. But use forest roads, not along 34, so this would be more south of even 36,
Okay.
going into Lyons.
Oh, okay, yeah,
And using forest roads to come up to Estes Park. So that was something that was investigated probably 15 years ago,
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
okay.
It's not impossible. I mean, if you look at what they're doing in Clear Creek Canyon,
Yeah,
I mean, they're
That's
doing some
impossible.
amazing things down there.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, it
Yeah.
starts with a request.
yeah,
well, I'm requesting. I don't know, if there's a way to, you know, at least have it show up in documents, even though
Yeah.
it's known that, of course, we're not gonna do it right now. Obviously, it's not a priority, because there's plenty of really, you know, I would agree that it's not a priority. But there might be a window of opportunity, there could be a section that could be done section at a time if the plan were supported.
And widening the canyon, which has vertical walls that are not easy to move,
Yeah.
that's one thing, but making sure that edge line that the cyclists are supposed to ride on is marked, and that one sign that says give them 3 feet for an affordable amount of money, that sign could be made into 5 signs with a color space or something to make it safer for drivers. You know, an in-between solution is not unaffordable. The real solution of making the canyon wider, it's not gonna happen unless,
It's not gonna happen.
Or in the
Yeah.
narrows, you know, could there be like a platform, you know,
Built
where the
out.
wall,
Something
yeah, the
for
wall
cantilever.
is there something, yeah, can there be an area that, is, yeah, that they don't have to be on top of the canyon walls, the bikes, but they can actually be below.
Well, while we're talking about wish lists, my cycling wish list would be a safe way to get from Mary's Lake to Lily Lake.
Yeah.
And we currently have the Homer Rouse Trail, which
Right.
is the old highway.
Yep.
So the grade is there, the
Part.
bed is there, and it could be turned into a bicycle trail for not prohibitive engineering.
Yeah, if it's paved, right now it's, you know,
No.
dirt, which is great.
No.
If there could be a,
but is it public right of way now? That's my
So
question.
through the Chile camp, they donated an easement or a right of way. So it no longer follows the old road bed. And that would be that's a mountain bike section.
yeah,
But the old roadbed, isn't that private land now?
It is.
Yeah, it's
Well,
it's not a public right of way.
The deal that was made was,
it's right on.
Chile Camp has home at the very south end. And so, rather than have people going by that home, they say, we're gonna grant a right-of-way through Chile Camp. And then the trail will no longer follow the old roadbed. And so that was something that was worked out years ago.
But I mean, there are other private properties along that old roadbed that goes up.
But the roadbed is public.
It is still public.
It's public.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
Except where the trail cuts through Chile
Yeah,
County.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a public right of way.
okay, that was my
Yeah.
question.
Which agency, which part of the public was it dedicated to, do you remember?
Larimer County.
Larimer
The
County.
county,
But if you wanna use it, you have to talk to everyone who touches that thing. Chile and,
Yeah.
I think, doesn't the
Seven
rec
keys.
district have some sort of involvement with the
They,
maintaining
I
of it?
think just to maintain
Maintain
it
it.
as a trail.
Okay.
I don't think they hold any title to it.
okay, any other questions? Okay, or updates? Okay. Then, updates from public comment, I think we need to do that, we're done. Any other
Actually,
business?
I do want to go on the
Yes.
record. So, last meeting or the meeting before, we've had several comments about exiting the new donut roundabout, the first crosswalk there, crosswalk, after you exit that roundabout, is around a blind curve and it's very dangerous. And so, I went on the CDOT website and submitted a comment about that. I just looked at my notes, right, I believe that was on the 10th. And
Okay.
so I am waiting for,
Did you check the box?
I checked the
about
box.
You'd like a response?
I wanted a
Good
response.
job.
Good.
And I got a response that we received your comment,
Good, okay.
which is not a
That's the
useful
response,
response.
No.
And so, yes, so that is now in CDOT's hands, and I
Thank you.
will bring back to the committee if I ever get anything more from
Or
them.
maybe all of
I'm
us
sorry,
should
which
do it too.
which roundabout?
Sorry, the donut roundabout, so Moraine and Craig's and
Where the donut
Riverside.
store used to be.
The new,
Oh, that.
The
I-
pedest- the
I was going-
pedestrian crosswalk
loop.
behind the
The
wine
loop.
shop.
I got it, I
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
when you said the donut roundabout,
Sorry.
it didn't quite.
They're all
A
donuts, aren't
roundabout
they?
is a donut.
Sorry.
But
I
that
got it.
crosswalk will have someone scared to death or hit. Because when people come out of the roundabout, it just feels like you're still going.
Well, and you can't see anybody in that crosswalk
Until you get pretty
until you are
close.
on
Yeah.
top of it. It is a terrible position for a
And,
crosswalk.
and we that live here will eventually learn there's a crosswalk there. But our summer people will not know there's a crosswalk there.
I know there's a crosswalk there and I won't use it because of that.
You're afraid you'll be in the middle of it when someone comes around the corner.
Well, you can stand there for 5 minutes and wait for somebody to stop.
You're
Nobody
safer to
stops.
jaywalk closer to the
Yeah.
roundabout.
My thought on this, and I mentioned this to Belle, can we issue an invitation to CDOT to address some of these things, to come?
sure, and
I think
just
that's-
as Joan did.
No, I mean, personally,
We've had guests here,
we've had them here at the meetings before
Oh.
to do that.
yeah. But
We
it's
can.
really
Gina.
specific, I mean, we want really good relationships with them,
Yeah.
so we don't necessarily want to,
I don't
it'd
want
be
it-
more like
Yeah.
asking questions.
Did anybody
But
else
safety-
submit
Safety
the,
is important though.
Yeah.
Safety, this isn't
I agree.
just us putting pressure on them
Well,
for
and
no
this is
reason.
just kind of an organic thing that's grown out of the project, darn, I really can't talk today, that maybe we don't understand the background or the reason for this, or maybe they don't understand the safety issues that we see, that we would like to
Now,
have.
if you
in-
think through this, so we put some kind of control there to take the right of way away from the motorist
Oh
and
my
give it to the
gosh.
pedestrian.
Oh my gosh.
So we're going to then stop the traffic flow, even though it's slow coming out of the roundabout, to defer to the pedestrian that wants to cross. Do we want to do that? Or do we say, not a good location for a crosswalk, take the crosswalk out?
Take the crosswalk
Take
out.
the crosswalk out, it's already, people are already.
We're already
And
struggling.
then the people at Piccadilly Square and the tram are gonna say, how can people get to
Well,
our
they
facility?
can walk up farther to the one that's up farther. If there's another one that's
The
up.
one down by the post office.
Yeah,
That's
the
clear
one
at the
that's-
post office.
So there is that option for them, and then
Yeah.
maybe we put a sign that says
Yeah.
crosswalk up there. You know, crosswalk up that way, this way you take it, I
we-
am not
we
for
did-
taking away any, or like stopping traffic in any way, shape or form in the summer and fall, especially when that's already kind of like locked in.
That's really a real challenge that we
Yeah.
wrestle through as we talk about accommodating the needs of the peds, accommodating the needs of the motorist. So if we really need a crosswalk there, maybe it needs to be grade separated.
Or-
And we have that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, an idea I've said many times is just having an outer ring that's pedestrian bikes. And, you know, that they,
But they still have to cross the road somewhere.
Yeah.
So are they gonna?
yeah,
But we,
but it would be a little section.
But
It
it's
would- it
not
would
like,
be-
it's not
would
like
have
it's a
to be 4
crosswalk
lanes.
now. They don't stop for pedestrians. That's the bottom
Well, they're
line.
coming around the
Well,
blind
and-
corner, and by the time
and
they're
if they
breaking
did stop
realizes, they
there,
can't.
the next car coming out of the roundabout would rear end it.
Absolutely.
Because people come out of the roundabout
Yeah,
at
Absolutely.
40.
a light would
Oh,
not.
no, you're exaggerating.
Well, it's a one-way road and people fly on one-ways because there's no traffic going the other way. And so
Yeah.
when now that that's coming, if they're coming out of the park and there's no traffic, people can really haul butt around that thing. So that is a possibility of them being tagged if they're stopped because there's the light blinking and the lady's crossing with her stroller and 2-year-old that's running that way. Like, I feel like it's a safety issue, just take that crosswalk.
Or a
out.
group hot on the trail to get to the rock, to the brewery, and they don't realize that people don't
What about a
stop.
flashing pedestrian light as you exit the roundabout, before the blind curve?
I think you're adding confusion.
Yeah.
to
I
it.
don't know,
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, it's a major safety issue at this point, and it's only a matter of time before somebody gets seriously tagged there.
Walk over there and
And we have other crosswalks in town,
I fly through there.
and there are people who in 15 minutes can see a similar one in another city. I mean, there must be somebody that knows how to fix this.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess my initial suggestion is one person sent a note on it.
Okay.
Right, we need more.
I mean, yeah.
Everybody needs to do it.
Timeout. Riverside is owned by the town.
Oh,
Oh, it's not the
So it's
state.
not a CDOT problem.
No.
That's not a
Oh.
Well,
36?
CDOT in
Everybody
the
needs to email
context
Greg.
that is the reverse leg,
I know, it's
that's the
not
eastbound leg of US 34,
Four is theirs.
Oh,
or
God.
36.
Yeah.
So CDOT they have the right to run their highway traffic on our street. We just took to the town board last meeting, a big, long IGA, intergovernmental agreement, that says, this is what the town owns, and this is how the town will maintain their portion, this is what CDOT does. This is our issue.
so we need to contemplate.
We have to
this.
work in
Okay.
partnership with CDOT, but going to CDOT is nice, but then I would love to just pass the buck to CDOT, but I can't, it's ours.
Oh dear, okay.
It's
I'll write
ours.
the form email we can all send to Greg.
All right, and,
No, I'm just kidding.
and I want
Then
to
never mind.
remind you guys, if we have a pedestrian that walks everywhere that's safe to walk, we should at least every once in a while, all of us walk the crosswalks of town, so we can label them, don't ever go there again. And then, I bicycle down in Loveland, and the crosswalk there has, plastic piers between the lanes with that break your eye flasher on the end of the pier. Whereas the ones on the two sides that are wide on a crosswalk, you know, you can drive by those two side ones flashing, but this one's in the middle of the two lanes.
On the yellow line,
On the line,
yeah.
and it sticks up to about eye level when you're in your car
What street is that on, Emily?
on Boise, where the bike trail crosses there.
South of 34.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it used to be, people paid no attention to those two side blinkers. And if you were bicycling across there, it was just the same as if there was no marking at all.
So, yeah, so the driver has to navigate, they're gonna see that post in the middle, and so it's gonna make them slow down.
Well,
That's good.
Yeah.
It helps for those drivers that actually give a damn and care.
Which they
And you
do,
can't claim you didn't see it, because
yeah.
it's right there on the
There are a few of
crosswalk.
them.
How many of those are gonna
Leading
get
up.
taken out though, cause people are crossing lanes and stuff going around that corner,
Well,
like
they
there's a
can't.
lot.
Well,
do you
if
know
it's
what I'm
on the
saying?
crosswalk,
Snow
hopefully
removal.
that's not a place to change lanes. And wherever we move the crosswalk, either closer to the circle or closer to the, the other end.
Maybe leading up to it and past the walk as well.
And the other
So
thing
that
that
it's-
some crosswalks have is the sign that has got people in it is not at the crosswalk, but ahead of it,
Craig,
you know.
here's an aerial image of it. You can see the pylons there.
So I see the Continental bars, I see Safe Hits.
I was gonna say, that
But
was
I
my
don't see it.
project, there's no flasher there. Flashers are on the sides,
Oh,
Yeah.
so how did you like that project?
unless they've upgraded it, because that was
I
one of my
can't
suggestions,
comprehend
was
that
to do
any
the safe
traffic
heads.
engineer would put any kind of a pole sticking out of the street surface without having a raised island.
Right, that was phase 2 of the project. This was the Bill Hange era, he didn't want anything in the right of way in between the curbs.
Yeah, in the travelway, yeah.
So I exerted my authority and said, no, we're gonna do it with safe hits. And if safe hits work and we need more, then we'll do a refuge island essentially.
It's a safe hit.
I like refuge, those are awesome, but,
Well, refuge islands make sense when you're separating two-way traffic. They don't
Right.
make as
Right on
much
one
sense when
Right.
you're on
One-
Yeah, you're
lane,
right.
one-way traffic.
so
Put one
what is,
reflector on top.
what's the terminology of just something that's flappy
That's a
and
safe hit,
safe
a
hit?
flexible delineator.
Yeah,
is what it
okay.
is.
So is that,
So I guess we could go there, that's
That's
fairly
low-hanging-
straightforward, we could start with that.
It seems
think it's
affordable,
I'd rather
it's
not do
coming
it
out
in
of
the
the
winter
railroad?
when we have to plow it.
That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking, yeah.
but I think
What would
that
that do with traffic?
90% of our run over pedestrian risk is in the summertime.
Creates what you were saying.
That's what it.
That's when
Creates
people
that
are gonna be
impression that
walking
I need to
the
slow down,
most,
'cause there's something there that I
you
might-
know,
Yeah.
and that's when the
Same as how
drivers
far
who are
from the
here
other
from out of
Yeah.
town are coming around the corner.
Jeff, what was your safe hit pattern generally for Boise? Was it just the center line or?
It was generally a diamond shape, was what they were supposed to have put in.
It looks like 3 and 3 in the center.
Yeah, that's what it looks like
Through
on
the
the.
turn lane, though.
Turn lane, yeah.
That's not, that's a separate.
It's not
Well, the
really
three.
She's
Yeah.
got,
Okay.
she's got the street
and
Those
view.
looks
Oh,
like they're in
yeah.
the street blocking the travel lane.
Which one would
It's
it cost?
either-
Let me see if I can
That's
move it
wasted
down.
space of pavement.
Oh, it's
So I
outside.
don't even think
Yeah,
it's a turn lane or
she's got
maybe
the
So
it's
I would like to see
Yeah,
the
they're
paint moved
Well,
closer to the
tell about,
roundabout,
how
so
about
people
this?
exit the roundabout can see the
It's
pedestrians.
our street,
We should
let
just
us
stop in traffic.
absorb this and noodle on it.
Yeah.
Talk to our streets guys, and maybe we can come up with a interim safe hit solution to install some flexible delineators out there. We have done this in the past at the Dairy Queen parking lot and tried to control left turns in and out of there. We've often put safe hits up at crosswalks for the Riverwalk before the ped signal went in. So maybe we take that concept and since now we have a signal at the Riverwalk crossings, to take the safe hit concept and move it up to this other crosswalk and see if it helps.
Greg,
I like it.
they are safe hit for automobiles, they are not safe hit for a cyclist.
Good point.
So
Uh-huh.
just have to be,
So we would place them not across the pavement
Yeah.
like that we saw in
Right.
that picture. We
Right.
put them on the lane lines where
In
the
the center line.
cyclist shouldn't be
You guys are
driving,
right, on
or
the
shouldn't
lane
be
line,
driving, on the
right.
lane line.
right,
Exactly.
I'm just,
Yeah,
But
but even,
essentially, it's another marker to the motorist
Yeah.
saying, hey, attention,
there's a crosswalk.
we have
here.
signs here.
Something's here.
Can there be another crosswalk, south of the post office before they turn, make that curve?
Where we have the temporary one during
Yeah,
construction?
that
Sure,
just-
we can put one, or we can put 10 crosswalks in.
Please don't.
Understand that every time you put a crosswalk in,
Does anybody understand?
it's like pinching the traffic flow. Because
Well-
as soon as a pedestrian puts their foot in that crosswalk, they have the right of way. The motorist is required to stop. Do
Right.
they? No, we just don't know.
Some of them stop though,
But some of them do.
Yeah.
And so,
you don't know.
we need to be judicious when we talk about just adding more and more crosswalks.
Right.
Because there's a point at which we're not gonna move anybody through town if we're stopping every 100 feet for crosswalks.
There is a crosswalk at
Well,
the parking lot,
I know,
post office parking lot,
I know.
Yeah.
It's around the corner and
yeah.
it's just kinda out of sight, like when I've used it, I just don't know, the line of sight when they're coming around that corner.
It's the same thing.
It's
It's
a
the same
short.
thing.
It just feels
It's
a
too
little.
short.
So
Can
that's the only reason why. I thought, well, maybe they go around the corner, there's a little bit more lead up time for the speeding
Yeah.
vehicle to consider.
I would ask that you let us take this in bites and
Okay.
not come in here and then throw multiple changes onto the network.
Yeah.
First of all, we've
Okay.
changed the entire network, let's give
Yeah.
a season for people to get used to it.
Okay,
I'll wanna talk to Jeff and Justin about the idea of adding some safe hits, maybe at call it the winery crosswalk.
okay.
Yes.
But give us some time here, if you would please, to
Yeah.
not add another crosswalk into the mix.
That's fine. I just,
And
throwing
if
out an
this
idea.
works there, it's an affordable improvement.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
low hanging fruit, big time,
Yeah.
very affordable.
And we won't measure it by the number of people died, because it's 0 to 0, hopefully.
Hopefully they didn't drink a
Forever.
glass of
But
wine
I
before they
think we
start
can get a
walking.
little bit of horse sense driving the loop a few times around to get a feel of how much people are going slower. Cause the day you put it up, everybody's gonna look at it and, like
Freak
notice it.
out.
Pretty good, go slow.
Is there any way to see like, hey, this is stopping traffic a lot this summer, we need to pull this crosswalk and move it, if we do find that?
Absolutely. You all will help be eyes and ears for that.
Okay, cause that feels,
Yeah,
like I drive that a lot, and
And I
know.
do in the summer.
Yes.
so when any pedestrian puts their foot in the crosswalk, do you yield to
Always.
them?
I always stop.
I knew you would.
You are a rarity,
I
let
always
me tell
stop,
you.
cause I don't wanna, I like my car, I don't want anybody. It's all purely selfish.
So, but
a white car.
lightweight, low height people, less concerning than the others.
Depends on how high your bumper is.
Yeah, well, there's some of these cars where you can't see children.
Yeah, and we want to design things that are good for the 8-year-old to the 80-year-old, make it user-friendly. And someone who's, needing to cross slowly and the parent feeling
And those are
confident.
usually the people walking, with some exceptions.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
Can I put in a pitch
Okay.
for a flashing light
We
on a
got-
crosswalk?
wherever we,
I know that
Is this
costs
under
more,
business?
but
Okay.
I think that is a distractor for people to take
You're talking
notice.
about this specific
The
location or a
winery one,
different
the
location?
winery one.
People are so confused over there though, they're like, do I go in the left lane to go downtown, do I try and go into this parking lot, am I supposed to go right to do this, am I supposed to do that? Like, be wary of just adding another sign or another thing or something else for somebody else to process. I've watched people all summer go around and around in that loop, cause they cannot figure out how to get out of it or where to go. So we need to be conscientious of those people, of dad in the driver's seat with kids screaming in the back, I'm hungry, I want this, and he's trying to figure out where to park and stuff like this is, we can't be like too super sign happy here, we have to
Well, if
be wary
we're
of what they're
going
dealing with.
to have a pedestrian crosswalk, it would be a way to alert to the pedestrian crosswalk. We're not adding anything, we're
Probably
just,
as justified as the other two rectangular rapid flash beacons that we have, just a block over on Moraine. There's good and bad with it. You can make the request, absolutely you can make the request. We
Can
have
I
no
request?
We have no money in the 2020, we would
Next.
take the request and consider that and
okay,
could potentially put it in as a decision package for the 2026 budget. But it would not be something we could respond to in
Well,
25.
that's
Safe
fine.
hits we can
Yeah.
respond to, that's low dollars.
And
okay.
if that slows down the traffic enough, we're
Yeah.
done.
How about, and most of the crossovers,
well,
on
if they
Moraine.
work on this one, and do anything and make anybody
So,
feel better, then we
generally-
start adding more of them.
Generally, we've put those out on the network, last week of May, try to get them in right before Memorial
Memorial
Day.
Day.
Put us off as long into May as we can, because there's,
Snow.
snow is gonna come in May probably.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, Jeff, do you have do you see something I'm missing here in this idea of safe hits?
The only thing that concerns me is in Boise Avenue, we had the center lane dead space.
Right.
It's not a turn lane, it's not anything else. And it's coming back to me now, the issues that people were having was vehicles were not yielding to pedestrians and bikes that were waiting to cross. And you have to know a little bit about the geometry of Boise, Greg, I'm sure you do. You can't see the continental bars when you're approaching from the north or the south.
Right.
Because of, this is
So
actually
level.
on a high point.
Yeah.
So you don't even realize, and there's enough shrubbery and what else, because there's a ditch there, that hides the cyclists that are standing there in front of the shrubs.
Yeah.
So what we did with the safe hits is to alert these drivers that, hey, there's something here. So, your nature is to slow down, but also to give that refuge zone for someone who doesn't get all the way across because the car's flying towards them. The difference with the roundabout is we don't have that in the middle. we have 2 lanes and it looks like, I'm guessing 14 footers, Greg?
12s plus gutter.
Right,
Yeah.
so we might be, you're essentially gonna be putting white safe hits along the lane delineators.
See that?
They're more likely to get run over.
Hopefully the semi doesn't.
There's a reason we call them rubber duckies. You knock them down and they get, they go flying.
Yeah.
It's worth a try. I don't know that it's ever been done in a single line like that. Like I said, even on Boise, it was supposed to be a diamond shape, like a traditional refuge.
Oh,
Because ultimately, that's what you would have if you built a true refuge island with curbs, and it wouldn't be a wall across the roadway, it would be a diamond shape to direct traffic.
around that space.
Right, okay.
Well,
There's no space for that.
I've only been here 7 years, but I remember crossing that kind of crosswalk there, and you could look down the road and try to judge by the car and the driver's eyes if he was gonna yield. But if you put your foot in the road, that was a mistake.
And realistically, you just said 2 things. What I always taught my kids, if you're standing on the curb waiting, you do not have right of way. You need to take
Well, it
that
has
step.
buttons to push,
You need to be in the crosswalk, then you have right of way.
yeah.
The second thing is, I'm sorry, I just lost my second thing.
Well, you
Probably
need to
look 'em in the
realize
eye.
that some
But you're
drivers
right,
will
looking them
not
in the
yield.
eye, I've told my kids, even if there's a button to push, it's not an invisible force field. You're not protected because you push that button. You still have to look at the car that's coming and make sure they're stopping,
Yeah.
make eye contact with the driver.
Yeah.
You know,
ready
all
to
those things
jump back.
play into it, but too often today, pedestrians are like, I'm pushing the button, I've got right away, I'm going.
Yeah,
And, as I've said many times, dead is dead, and the car's not gonna die. So,
Yeah,
you can be right all day long, but unfortunately,
yeah.
And when we read this book, we learn that good engineering makes everybody safe because it makes doing the safe thing the easiest thing to do. So, it's tough.
so to finish answering Greg's question, what I'm looking at from an aerial, Greg, we might be able to narrow the lanes a little bit and get a double row of safe hits. Maybe spaced by about a foot, but it's gonna be really weird, it's gonna look really hinky, and I think Carissa, you said, I hope a semi doesn't go through there.
Which they have.
But even
which they-
one-
There'll be
they
the
have
ones
to.
like,
Even
They have no
one
other
on the
way.
white lines of the
Yeah.
crosswalk. Make the crosswalk visible to someone who's looking straight ahead instead of down at the pavement.
I guess we could potentially put 3 in, one on the center line, the center lane line, and then one on the outermost continental bars.
There is-
That's gonna create a hazard for the cyclists who are trying to stick to
There's
the
no
edge.
bike lane there.
No, but, okay, for the cyclist who is trying to go through there safely, they
who's
will
not
be,
taking the whole lane.
they will be staying to the side of the lane, that's gonna create a real hazard for them, so I really hate the idea
So
of
one
in there.
safe hit on the center line only.
a series of safe hits on the center line leading up to it.
That would be my
Yeah,
recommendation.
leading up and
Yeah.
There
leading
is,
in.
Switching lanes
Yeah.
before the
Yeah.
crosswalk.
Okay.
there is another
I think-
possibility. I've been wanting to do one of these for years.
Oh, let's hear
They're
it.
cheap, in pavement flashers.
Oh,
In pavement.
oh, no, that's.
so when someone steps in that crosswalk, they'll go
When
on.
they push the button, it'll light the flashers up. Philadelphia Airport has them in their drop-off area. And they're plow-proof. Supposedly the technology has gotten really good.
Are they affordable?
They're cheap?
Yeah,
The last time I looked into them, it was about 100,000
Oh,
for a crosswalk, so I mean, they're affordable, no.
no, okay.
And what's really cool is in the wintertime, the snow kinda lights up on the.
There you go.
They look cool.
I mean, there is,
It's our new version of Christmas lights, because we can't
Yeah.
afford them, because we bought those.
but again, it gets the driver's attention, but again, yielding is still up to the driver.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
They do come in red and green.
Rainbow
If I'm
dog
looking
on
at
it.
the right
My
But
favorite color.
100,000 for a crosswalk.
for the lights, they were about 90,000 10 years ago. So
For
I'm
the lights,
guessing
but
they're-
that doesn't include install and all of that,
No, I think that
right?
was the total.
Oh, okay.
It was the total.
Well, that's.
Plus making
So,
everybody's life miserable of pulling
There's,
the loop
the
closed.
reason I throw it out there, I mean, obviously the town isn't flush with money, but there's a lot of grant opportunities.
Oh,
And I
Yeah,
just saw another one today.
could be a safe
E4
route.
70 has a grant for safety.
Oh,
They focus more on the E4 70 corridor, but they're big on safety for pedestrians.
oh,
So that might be something that we
that
can,
would be a bad road to cross.
If we get it
That'd be
funded,
good, it'd be awesome.
then we can think about it.
Thank you, that,
it's just, like I said, it's out of the box, but
not necessarily. All right,
Okay,
so we are gonna end early, like
New
7
business.
minutes. Was that?
new business is still on the agenda.
Oh, I said, is there any new business? And so
Yes,
that's
I
where
have
we
new
start.
business.
Oh, I did not hear that.
Did you all get an email from Lonnie?
Yep.
Yes.
yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to plug the invitation to please, if you can, come Friday afternoon to this room and listen to presentations from 5 candidates for the new public works position.
Wow.
So you can listen, there's a meet and greet, you can ask some questions. There'll be a comment card, please take the time to fill it out and give input to the town administrator who you think he should hire.
Are they from the area, candidates?
There are 3 from Colorado and 2 from out of state. The Colorado, 1 from Inglewood, 1 from Fort Collins, 1 from Greeley.
Oh, okay,
Unfortunately, all male.
yeah.
There's some experience stuff that kind of tips things that way.
I suppose,
Structural inequities, you
yeah.
Well,
Don't say DEI.
oh, don't say that, yes.
We'll get smashed by the.
But, my wife's cousin was asked to apply for the job, and he's the, maintenance guy for his children's school in, a rather small town in California. So they did do a wide search to ask people to apply.
They went nationwide,
And,
Fantastic.
yeah.
and
The applicants, I have not seen the applications or the resumes, I did I'll confess to looking them all up on LinkedIn.
Oh, then you found out a lot.
I'm impressed with their pedigrees, good candidates.
I looked at the resumes before this meeting and they're all strong.
Are they?
Oh, boy, it's
Cool.
gonna be hard.
well, no, that's a good thing that
It is a
our
good-
position,
Yeah.
which is not financially above every place else, is still attractive and is drawing good
Good,
candidates.
strong qualified
So
professionals.
wait till they find out about the cost of living here.
I know.
Well, we're gonna hold
Yeah.
that till after, yeah.
Well, and also, I'd like to know how well have they worked with, public groups? Like, have they worked well with an advisory board, and are they open to be
It's a
collaborative?
really great question
You know?
to
Yeah,
ask in
ask
the.
that.
Quick
Yeah.
Q&A.
And this was not a, like,
'Cause not everyone
you
likes
know how you send wedding invitations to people that you don't want to come? This was a sincere invitation for us to come.
Yeah.
Well, you know, they're cousins that send presents, you know?
I feel like we should bombard each of them with emails from people in town and see how they react, and then we can judge it, like, this is a day in the life of
I
Greg.
wonder if in the presentation, there probably will, I expect there's gonna be a question part of it. So
Yeah, it
if we
says
have
there
an
is.
an audience of people that just nailing them with questions.
Like, can you
that's
handle
real
this?
That's real life,
Like-
yeah.
Well, one of the things I'd like to avoid with this position, that we have had with other things here in Estes Park, is hiring a person from someplace else that sounds great, interviews great, takes the job, and then within
90
6
days
months to a
later.
year,
They leave.
they're gone,
You can't,
and we have to go through this process again.
Help us
yeah, how
filter
do we
through
figure
that.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
Yeah, what are the long-term goals?
Yeah, stepping stone for a lot of people.
Where do you not see yourself in 5 years, and we got other places?
Are you really a beach person or a mountain?
I don't see myself in space in 5 years.
Well, you know, somebody has to be the first guys to be sent up there and not come back.
They
I
did.
wish so.
I will
They're
not be
still
here for
there.
the March meeting, cause it's during spring break and I'll be in Disney World, so sorry.
Disney World.
Yeah, I'm not gonna zoom in from Disney, sorry friends.
No, don't do that. Yeah,
No,
But if you can always email me if you have any comment,
Okay.
then I can
Yeah.
share the group about
Absolutely.
anything and.
Absolutely.
Because by then, we'll start putting together some, information for a draft of
Okay.
what we give,
And
recommendation.
And if you are flying in and out of Florida, the tradition to applaud when all 4 landing gear are secure on the ground,
Went up.
it's going back up. And my flight back from Florida, everyone who spoke Spanish above a certain age, it was as good as a play or a show for them.
Yeah.
And the younger people that didn't understand Spanish, they're gonna take it up this week or next week. 1 or 2 more of these events.
All right, anything else? All right, we're adjourned, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody want one?